Hello and good morning. You're watching Market Cafe with me, Snehisha, and with me is Shreyansi Singh, and well, you're watching ET Now. Now, this is a show where we'll take you through everything big that has happened globally and domestically while we were asleep last night. All the big things that have happened this morning, and in the second half of the show, we'll also be flagging off all the stocks that could be potential buzzers in today's trading session, as well as what brokerages are flagging out for us bright and early this morning. So, with that, let's kickstart the show with the global handover. And Shreyansi, good morning. Tell us what's happening on Wall Street and what did the European markets look like?
Absolutely. So not a lot is happening when you look at the move that came in yesterday, or even what the stock futures are doing. Now, when you look at stock futures, they tick lower as investors looked ahead to a key inflation report due later this week. Now, when you look at what happened in the regular session also, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite ended the day with small gains, up 0.2% and 0.3% respectively. When you look at the Dow as well, that fell for a second straight day, off by about 0.3%. And on Wednesday, of course, investors will look to earnings results from retailer TJX and pharma company Viatris, as well as Salesforce, that will also be posting its quarterly numbers. And that's largely what you're looking at when you see the handover. But you know, in terms of the economic front, you do have the wholesale inventories data that is due, and that is something the market will look out for when you look at Qs coming in this week. And when you look at the move coming in for Europe as well, European markets closed slightly higher, and this was of course amid the shaky global sentiment ahead of US and European inflation data later in the week. So when you look at the Stock 600, that ended up 0.2% higher, with most sectors in the positive territory. Mining stocks gained 1.7%, media stocks also fell on the other side 1.1%. DAX closed 0.7% higher, and CAC also closed 0.2% higher thereabout. So that's largely the handover coming in. Not much that's happening, but definitely an important week as to the data that comes in later.
Well, absolutely. And with that, let's also take a look at what's happening in the world of crude. And crude oil futures rose on Tuesday amid uncertainty about the prospects for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. And as some investors expect the OPEC Plus will extend its production cuts beyond the first quarter as well. The West Texas Intermediate, or the WTI contract for April, rose almost $1.29 or 1.6% to settle at $78.87 a barrel. And Brent April futures rose $1.12 or 1.36% to settle at that $83.6 per barrel mark. Now, President Joe Biden told reporters in New York City on Monday night that he hoped a ceasefire would be reached in the Israel-Hamas war by the 4th of March. On the other hand, you have senior Hamas official Ahmed Abdel Hadi, who told a Lebanon news channel that the US proposal does not in fact meet the militant group's demands for a permanent end to the fighting and a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. You also have the Houthi militants playing in over here, because they told Reuters on Tuesday that the group would reconsider its attacks on international shipping and on the Red Sea only if Israel ends its aggression in Gaza. Lots of factoring voices playing over here. On one hand, you have Biden. On the other hand, you have people from Gaza, and then you also have the Houthi militants, playing in over here. Lots of these commentaries that we have got over the last 2 days have affected how oil has moved. Now, OPEC Plus will soon make a decision on whether to extend its production cuts beyond the first quarter. Goldman Sachs, however, expects the reductions to continue through the second quarter, with OPEC Plus gradually and partially phasing them out in the third quarter. So, well, there is not a lot of visibility, Shreyansi, when it comes to oil. So let's see how that pans out for these oil markets. But with that, take us through everything important today.
Absolutely, and there's a lot lined up, right? So in terms of global cues, in the Eurozone, you do have economic confidence as well as consumer confidence data sets. And from China, you have that unemployment data that has to come out, that will be in the spotlight. And in terms of corporate action, FEM industries will be trading X bonus in 1:1 ratio. So that one will be in the spotlight. And on the IPO corner, of course, you do have Bharat Highways InvIT IPO that opens. But there's a lot of other events that you should also keep your eye on. And Bill Gates will be visiting Odisha. PM Modi will be launching developmental projects in Maharashtra and also inaugurating ISRO's second largest spaceport. So those two developments will definitely be in the spotlight. there are a couple of speeches from FOMC members as well. And there's also a meeting between G20 finance ministers and central bank chiefs. So the commentary from that or on the sidelines of that will also remain in the spotlight.
Well, absolutely. And with that, let's take a look at all the important global stories we're tracking for you. Let's get started with the top global news that we are tracking this morning. Sony has announced that it will be slashing about 900 jobs at its PlayStation unit, which amounts to 8% of the unit's global workforce. The company will also be shutting down a London studio. This all comes amid the video game industry struggling to recover from a post-pandemic slump. Also, remember earlier this month, Sony had said that it expects a gradual decline in unit sales of the PlayStation 5 from the next financial year.
And in other news then, according to reports, Warner Bros. Discovery is no longer pursuing a merger with Paramount Global, halting talks after several months of kicking the tires on merging the media companies. However, Skydance Media is still performing due diligence on a potential transaction. Meanwhile, Comcast is not interested in acquiring Paramount assets, but would consider commercial partnerships like bundling or merging Peacock and Paramount Global.
Well, let's talk about yet another key player because reports suggest tech giant Apple is planning to wind down its special projects group working on building electric cars with self-driving abilities to rival against Tesla. Now, this comes after a decade since the project had kicked off. The company has announced that several employees working on the electric car project will be shifted to the firm's artificial intelligence division.
And shifting focus to some global earnings then, e-commerce giant eBay topped Q4 earnings, beating Wall Street estimates. The company also announced that it will be raising its dividend and that the board will be authorizing an additional $2 billion worth of stock repurchases. And this was after the positive news flow, the stock was soaring high as much as 4% during after hours.
Alright, viewers, with that, we'll slip into a very short break on this edition of Market Cafe, but you stay tuned because when we return, we'll take a look at how the Asian markets have opened up this morning.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's take a look at what the Asian markets are doing right now. And largely not all that much happening when you look at New Zealand's central bank decision. That, of course, kept its interest rate steady, and that is something that we're seeing not play out all that much when you look at ASX 200 on your screens shortly. Not doing that much, just dipped 0.1% after that announcement, currently flat, so not much happening on that front. Now, when you look at Nikkei as well, that is down about 0.2%, currently also trading around those levels. And Hang Seng also in the red, but not decidedly lower, so down about 0.1% on your screens. And on the other side, of course, there's Shanghai that is in the green as we speak and up about 0.3% right now. And Kospi also in the green, up about 0.5%, strongest move coming in from Kospi among that particular Asian market set. And that largely is the handover when you look at Asian markets as of now. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, before we take a look at Nifty indices reject, let's also take a look at what Nifty implied is showing us. And this morning, it's indicating towards a positive start. We closed around that 22,198 mark yesterday. So the Nifty implied rates are on your screen indicating a positive start. Now, on to the Nifty indices reject that is set to happen on March 31st. Adjustments are scheduled to be announced post-market hours today. What will be the impact of this reject and what are the flows that are being penciled in? Somit is standing by with all of the answers.
Well, if you see, the NSE changes are expected to be announced today post-market hours, and the adjustment regarding the same is expected to happen on March 31st. Now, which is the main index or the benchmark index for India, that is the Nifty 50 index. Shriram Finance is expected to get included in the index, and UPL is expected to be removed from the index. Now, Shriram Finance could see an inflow of anywhere between 200 to 250 million US dollars on the back of this inclusion, which could be around 3.2 times that 20-day average volume, while UPL could see an outflow of close to 84 to 107 million US dollars, which is nearly 5.5 times that 20-day average volume. In the Nifty Bank Index, analysts are expecting Canara Bank to get included. Inflows could be around $73 million and Bandhan Bank could get excluded from the Nifty Bank Index, and the outflows of Bandhan Bank could be anywhere between 50 to $56 million. Now, in the Nifty IT Index, there is no major inclusion or exclusion expected by the analyst. Now, apart from that, in the Nifty Next 50, if you see, multiple inclusions are expected like Geo Financial, Adani Power, IRFC, PFC and REC. So keep an eye out for these stocks in trade. The announcement is expected to come in today post market hours.
Alright, Swami, thanks for taking us through that. But while you're with us, let's talk about a stock that's going to be in focus today, right? And that's VonoIdea, because it's got a board nod for fundraising of up to 45,000 crore rupees through equity and debt. Now, the company will hold an EGM to get the shareholders' approval on the 2nd of April. But Swami, what are the implications of this fundraise? What are the key challenges? Take us through that.
Well, the recent announcements that have come in VonoIdea is the fact that the company is looking for an equity fundraise of close to 20,000 crore rupees, and also they are engaged with multiple banks for a tie-up for debt funding also. Now, overall they are looking to raise close to 45,000 crore rupees via equity and debt going forward, and they will be holding a EGM, that is the extraordinary general meeting of the shareholders, for the approval of this on April 2nd, 2024. Now, promoters would also participate in this proposed fundraise as they had committed earlier, and these funds would be used by the company for significant expansion of 4G, 5G network rollout and for capacity expansion going forward. Now, what does this fundraise mean? In practical terms, this fundraise actually means nothing, because the company is just enabling a resolution to raise these funds, as they had done there earlier also. In September 2020, they had enabled a resolution of around 25,000 crore rupees. In March 2022, they have enabled a resolution of close to 10,000 crore rupees. However, the company has so far failed to raise funds from any external investor so far, and this is just an extension of the earlier enabled resolution, and this time the resolution is for 20,000 crore rupees of equity fundraise, and an actual fundraise could be still some time away for VonoIdea going forward. Now, why the fundraise could be a challenge for VonoIdea? Because if you see the current market price, the share prices are currently 15.9 rupees, while the government was issued shares at a face value of 10 rupees per share. Now, in case a company even goes ahead with a QIP and preferential allotment, the pricing of this allotment would be determined on a predetermined formula, hence which could be higher than the face value, and this could discourage any potential investor who is looking to put in funds in the company. Hence, most likely a fundraise could be challenging for the company going forward. The company could, however, could decide to go ahead with a rights issue, because at that time the company could keep the pricing as per their terms, and that could be near to the face value. So, rights issue could be the only way ahead going forward for VonoIdea for a fundraise. Apart from that, fundraise still looks challenging for the company.
Alright, Swami, but stay with us, because Bajaj Auto has also announced a 4,000 crore rupees buyback program. Record date for the buyback is on Feb 29th. Give us some more details about it and what is being penciled in for the buyback as well.
Well, for Bajaj Auto, if you see, the stock would remain in focus because tomorrow is the record date for the buyback, which means that today, Feb 28th, will be the last day to buy shares for any shareholder who wants to participate in this buyback. Now, the buyback price was at around 10,000 rupees per share was set, and compared to current market price, if you see, it is at a premium of nearly 18%. However, the buyback size is small at around 4,000 crore, which means that the company will be buying back only 40 lakh shares, which means that only 6 lakh shares have been reserved for retail shareholders. Now, given the smaller size of buyback and higher retail shares in the system, the acceptance ratio is expected to be lower for Bajaj Auto buyback. Now, given the fact that the acceptance ratio is expected to be lower, the gains would also be lower for any retail shareholders who is looking to buy the Bajaj Auto shares just for this buyback play. Now, analysts are expecting the acceptance ratio to be anywhere between 14 to 17%. Now, we have given you a scenario here. Now, in case there is a 10% acceptance ratio, then the actual gains for any investor would be just 1.8%. In case of 20% acceptance ratio, the gains could be around 3.6%, and if the acceptance ratio is higher on the 30 to 50% side, then the gains could be around 5.5 to 9.1% for any retail shareholder who is looking to participate in this buyback and is looking to buy shares today for the same.
Alright, Swami, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Let's get a move on then. And the Supreme Court has slammed Patanjali for deceptive advertising following a petition from the Indian Medical Association. Patanjali and its director, Acharya Balkrishna, face a contempt notice for allegedly flouting court orders. The apex court has barred Patanjali from advertising medications for various conditions, including blood pressure, diabetes, arthritis, asthma, and obesity. Furthermore, the court criticized the health ministry for neglecting its duty, emphasizing the need for vigilant monitoring to prevent further exploitation of consumers. Harish Nair is here with more details.
In fact, scathing remarks against Patanjali from Supreme Court, which has also very significantly issued show cause notice of contempt against the company and its managing director, Balakrishna, and sought the response within 3 weeks. It is a reminder that Supreme Court was hearing a petition filed by Indian Medical Association against misleading advertisements being issued by Baba Ramdev's Patanjali Ayurved, claiming that they were far better than the chemical-based medicines. Supreme Court had on last day reprimanded the Patanjali Ayurved for continuing to publish misleading claims and advertisements against modern systems of medicine and attacking allopathy stream of medicine despite a clear restraint order issued November last year. Significantly, Supreme Court restrained Patanjali from publishing advertisements of medicine produced by it for BP, diabetes, arthritis, asthma, obesity, etc., where it had claimed that its medicine will completely eradicate the disease and not just a temporary cure. Unlike allopathy medicines, Supreme Court said what Patanjali did was prima facie violation of the court orders and willful flouting of the assurances it had given to the court. Supreme Court very clearly said allopathy cannot be brought down or deprecated in the eyes of the public like this. Supreme Court also turned its eye, in fact, anger on the health ministry, saying IMA had filed the petition way back in 2022. You know that misleading advertisements are being published. Even then, you have not. Even then, you have not acted against it, and you should have issued proper warning against it to the states also. And Supreme Court remarked that Patanjali was taking the entire country for a ride, and here was the health ministry turning a blind eye to it.
All right, staying with the topic and moving on from one Harish to another, we also caught up with Harish Bijur, brand guru. Listen to what he had to say as well.
You know, today's order is a reasonably serious one because the Honorable Court has actually, put things down on paper to say that, you are ignoring what was meant to be done. And I think Patanjali Ayurved has attracted this attention fundamentally when it has entered into the territory of hard Ayurveda. Because, out here, you're really talking about claims and counterclaims. And unless the claim can be ratified scientifically, claims do not hold in the market. And therefore, this ban on advertising, I do believe, which to an extent is basis, science versus science yet to be proved.
All right, let's get a move on from Patanjali and talk about what PM Modi is up to, because he continues his project launch spree. ET now has learned from sources that on Saturday, the Prime Minister will launch the Western and Eastern dedicated freight corridors. Sameer Dikshit, my colleague, has more details on this. Sameer, good morning. Take it away.
In a series of inaugurating massive infra project, what we are picking up from our sources that the Prime Minister is likely to inaugurate a massive railway infra project on March 2nd, the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor as well as the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor. So on a single day, Prime Minister is going to inaugurate both of the dedicated freight corridor, having a rail network of having a length of more than 2,800 kilometers, spanning to more than 9 states, crossing more than 77 districts. So that is a massive railway project that has been built by railway at a cost of more than rupees 1.25 lakh crore. Now this dedicated freight corridor is aimed to improve the freight transportation movement through railways. So this freight corridor, whether it be the Eastern dedicated freight corridor or the Western one, it will provide a seamless, a faster freight movement. On these tracks, the freight train will be having an average speed of more than 50 kmph. Currently, it is having just around 25 kmph. So these are having multiple advantage. DFC, the dedicated freight corridor, is coined as a game changer for Indian Railways and also for the economy. So this massive or the mega infra project is likely to be inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi on 2nd of March. And this is not just one case. Earlier also, if you see, the PM has inaugurated or has laid foundation of stone of multiple multiple infra projects, and the government is looking that before the announcement of the dates for the general elections, whatever the big ticket projects are, either it has to be inaugurated or the foundation stone for the infra development, and so far it has been able to prove with some great numbers or a better result.
Well, thanks, Samir, for those details. EV is certainly the buzzword for Motown. Talking to ET Now, two major car makers, MG Motor and Skoda, shared their EV strategy. Listen in.
So EV is the future, and we definitely want to play a big role in that. We definitely will have one new EV entry in this year, which we have already announced. I'll leave the segment for the time being. Which segment? Some surprise. I like to keep it right now. But yes, more EVs probably will talk about it. But this is what the joint venture between the two shareholders right now. The talks are going on. The plans are getting made, and hopefully in the next few weeks we can talk more in detail about that.
We are about to enter this game now. I mean, it's not for us a game. I mean, we have been selling EVs since 2019, and our most popular EV, and actually one of the best sellers we have in Europe, ENIAC, was tested in India more than a year, is now ready to be sold in India. From the 6 EVs, which Skoda is planning in Europe within the next 5 years, we want to have in India at least 4.
Alright, with our viewers, we'll slip into a very short break on this edition of Market Cafe. You stay tuned because we'll be right back with more stock-specific news and updates.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, Vedanta conducted its analyst meet. What are the company's targets and capex plans? What will be the next growth driver for the company? My colleague Gaurav joins in with the answer and the key takeaways.
Yeah, so let's talk about Vedanta's annual meet, and first let's talk about the debt plans that the company has presented. So basically Vedanta parent company has said that they will reduce the Vedanta Resources debt almost by 3 billion in the next 3 years, and they will make sure that they won't compromise on the well-being of the listed entity, which is Vedanta. If we talk about the capex plan, the company now has 6 billion worth of capex plan, and the payback period for this capex plan is less than 3 years according to the management. Lastly, if we talk about the growth drivers, now company has a vision to triple their revenue and EBITDA from here on, and they also aim to achieve the debt neutrality by 2030. They believe that aluminium is going to be the next growth driver for the company, and they are aiming to be the lowest cost producer for aluminium. And lastly, they are also going to announce 2 million ton worth of zinc project in India very soon. So all in all, very positive commentary has come up from the Vedanta management. If you look at the stock price, it has been in a consolidated zone for at least for the last 1 month. So let's see how the stock performs now that we have a positive commentary from the management.
Thanks for taking us through that. Vedanta will be in focus on the back of that news flow. But Gaurav, while you're with us, take us through all the brokerage notes that we've been getting this morning. I believe Motilal Oswal, Macquarie and other notes this morning.
Talk about Motilal Oswal because they have initiated on a Dream Forks and with a target price of 650 rupees and buy rating. So what they believe is that the air travel is going to increase fastly, and card usage is also increasing, and all this is going to boost the usage of lounges in the airports. The company has asset light model and strong growth driver for the time coming ahead. If we talk about the international expansion, company is also planning to expand internationally, and this all is going to help the company's earnings to grow sustainably, and that is why they are initiating with buy rating and a target price of 650 rupees per share. Let's also talk about Zomato because Macquarie has now maintained underperform rating but increased the target price to 96 rupees per share. They believe that the company is demonstrating better unit economics, and it is also performing well if we compare it with the peers in the quick commerce segment, but they believe that there is margin, the margin of safety is very limited for the company, and on back of this they have increased the margin estimates for Blinkit, but for the food delivery segment they have kept the estimates at the same level, and that is why we are seeing a little uptick in the target price to 96 rupees per share. Let's also talk about IT sectors because Bank of America has increased the target price for 2 of the companies, which is Infosys and Wipro. So for Infosys they have increased the target price to 1735 rupees. For Wipro they have increased the target price to 415 rupees while maintaining their stance of neutral and underperform rating respectively, because they believe that we may see some kind of pause in the rally. We have seen these stocks going up. So for example, Wipro was up almost 30% in the last 6 months. Infosys is up almost 18% in the last 6 months, because we may see some kind of earnings upgrade coming up, and we may see it very soon. But for now, they have increased the target price while maintaining the rating for the stocks. So these were the brokerages that we have so far, and I think let's keep an eye on all these stocks from here on.
Thanks, Gaurav, for that update. Those are the stocks that you should watch out for on account of brokerage notes. But as promised, let's also take a look at the stocks that you should keep on your radar on account of Newsflow. So there's SJVN, of course. The company's unit backed a 100 MW solar power project at a tariff of 2.64 rupees per unit through competitive tariff bidding conducted by Gujarat Urja Vikas Nigam. So that stock will be in focus. GE India. Now, the company secured orders worth rupees 370 crores from, and this is for GE T&D India, orders worth 370 crores from Power Grid Corp for the supply of 76 kW shunt reactors for various transmission system projects in India. And that stock will be in focus. CMS Infosystem also will be in the spotlight on account of those block deals that we've seen coming in. The key buyers include Sign Investment Holdings, SocGen, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, Morgan Stanley Asia, and ICICI Prudential Mutual as well. Now, ICICI Lombard General Insurance, that counter will also remain in the spotlight, because Bharti Enterprises sold 62.5 lakh shares, while ICICI Bank bought 62.5 lakh shares at 1,666.35 rupees. So that one will also be in the spotlight. Now, you do have Tanla Platforms. The company and Truecaller extend an exclusive partnership to deliver customized solutions to enterprises. So that one will also be in the spotlight. Now, when you look at Texmaco Rail as well, that approved the raising of funds by way of issuance of convertible warrants and by way of preferential issue to promoters for an amount not exceeding 150 crores. So those are all the counters that you should keep on your radar on account of Newsflow.
Well, all right, those are all the important stocks that are going to be or expected to be buzzing today. And well, let's going to move on and we decode NDAs Vision for India to make the country the third largest global economy if it gets voted to power again, versus Congress's promises around jobs and pensions and luring Kisans and Jawans. Is RJ's promise of Jitni Abadi Utna Haq alluding to a caste census?
The Congress party is clearly facing a leadership issue. At one point of time, or in the earlier years, the Gandhi family used to get votes for the party, and that is how they were able to control the party and take the party forward. However, in the last 10 years, the Gandhi family premium has declined. So the congressmen are not really benefiting from the leadership of the Gandhis. And that's why we have seen that there has been a lot of exodus also from the party to BJP, because many people do not see a bright future of the Congress party or their own future or their own bright future in the party. So they are leaving.
So the important thing is the credibility of the promise. And I would say in any case, the most important thing is performance. How have you performed in the last 5 years is far more important. People are quite uncertain as to what you will achieve further on. Mr. Modi is seen as somebody who is a doer. He gets things achieved. But I do not think a promise on one specific sector or the other is the key, because frankly, politicians like to assure every single sector.
All right, and the cross-voting at the Rajya Sabha has ended with BJP candidate Harsh Mahajan winning the sole Rajya Sabha seat in Himachal Pradesh despite the majority in the state assembly. Congress candidate Abhishek Manu Singhvi has thanked the 9 MLAs who voted against him. The development puts a big question mark on Congress government in Himachal Pradesh. Listen in.
From the bottom of my heart, the entire top leadership of the Congress, the Congress President, the former Congress President, Srimati Sonia Gandhi, and the entire top leadership for having reposed faith in me a 4th time. They sent me to Himachal out of good faith, and I am truly, truly grateful for the remarkable amount of confidence and faith they have reposed in me. Secondly, I would like to thank profusely, starting from the Honorable Chief Minister, each and every MLA, most of whom are now in this room, the office bearers of the Congress Party, each one of them for having tried their best, worked hardest, been highly cooperative. And thirdly, I'd also like to thank the 9 persons, because they've taught me a lot about human nature, its fickleness or its resoluteness. They've taught us a lot because they supped with us. In the biblical terms, it's called supping with us. Dinner, drinks, and photography till 11 o'clock last night. And 3 of them had breakfast with us, or 2 of them had breakfast with us. So I think we are bad.
Well, all right. And speaking on the Indian market, Sanjeev Prasad, the MD and co-head at Kotak Institutional Equity, says that India's macro growth looks decent to him. Let's listen in to some of his sectors that he likes, like the PSUs.
Macroeconomic situation is pretty decent. The growth is looking fairly strong, despite some persistent weakness on the consumption side. And the global rate cycle cut will probably start sometime soon, even though that expectation keeps getting postponed by every month as we go along. But at some point in time, given the fact that inflation and more important core inflation seems to be coming down in most of the developed world, I would assume the US Fed will start cutting rates at some point in time. Yeah, and on politics, so or any other front, doesn't look like there is any concern for now.
Okay, point taken. Hi Sanjeev, Anisha also joining in the conversation. I was just going through your note on PSU. You are saying that it's perhaps the low float and the high amount of perception change that has happened there, but it's not backed by earnings. And over the next 12 months as well, you're not expecting any earnings improvement there. So what's the call on PSUs?
Somewhat selective now, given the broad-based rally that you have seen in PSUs, irrespective of the sector. And keep in mind the fact not as if things have changed dramatically for certain sectors. If you look at the positives side, clearly there have been some, or I would say decent improvement as far as the investment part is concerned, and that's applicable for both the private household as also the public sector capex part. So no issues on that part of the story. Things are looking pretty good. But obviously, stocks are up a lot in anticipation of a fairly strong, government capex cycle. So let's see whether that sustains, how long, all that stuff. We'll have to wait and see. But beyond that, I'm not too sure, because we have seen rally in so many of the PSU names without any real change in fundamentals. So I don't know what the reasons over there. Some of it, as we have tried to figure out, could be just because of.
Well, with that, we're timed out on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. From me, Shreyansi Singh, Snehi Shah, as well as the entire team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. You don't go anywhere, because the market takes all of the action forward.